The book Maryellen used for this lesson is called Those Shoes. Those Shoes by Mary Beth Bolts, illustrated by Noah Z. Jones. I have dreams about those shoes, black high tops, 2 white stripes. All Jeremy wants is a pair of those shoes, like the ones everyone at school seems to be wearing. Though Jeremy's grandma says they don't have room for want, just need. When his old shoes fall apart at school, he's more determined than ever to have those shoes, even a thrift shop pair that's the wrong size. But sore feet aren't much fun, and Jeremy soon sees that things he has, warm boots, a loving grandma, and a chance to help a friend, are worth more than the things he wants. Maryellen set up the lesson using a whiteboard, pictures of all the characters from this book, and MindWing's magnets. She also used materials from MindWing's new Critical Thinking Triangle in Action collection. She invited the boys to come this summer and also this fall, once they were in 2nd grade, to use this book. This is Isaiah. He's 7 and he's in 2nd grade, and he's participating in this lesson. This is Maryellen's grandson, Jerry. He's also 7 and in 2nd grade and very excited to be participating. And this is their friend Frankie, who's also age 7 and in 2nd grade. And here we go.
Now I'd like you to just put on your best listening ears, fold your hands, and I told you I was going to recap and talk about what we did today, just very quickly so that the teachers will know what we did. Okay, first of all, we reviewed a little bit of Those Shoes by Mary Beth Bolts and Noah Jones. And when I talk about reviewing, I talked about using the story grammar marker, and you used your story grammar markers, and we talked about the beginning of the story when Jeremy was at home and in his community, and all he did was see people wearing those shoes. He felt strongly that he needed to get those shoes, so he made a plan to talk to Grandma about it. And so we know the things that he did. He got the shoes with his own money, and he felt wonderful about it. Now that's where we're going to come up in this story. We're going to take the next episode. And remember, we talked about all the characters in the story. We talked about Jeremy, we talked about his grandma, his classmates, Antonio, his friend, and Mr. Alfrey, who was the guidance counselor. We talked about the setting. Remember, Jeremy lived in a city, and you live in cities. And Jeremy, we also compared and contrasted cities and the country, all right? We talked about the kickoff for Jeremy. The kickoff we just talked about when I retold the story was that Jeremy didn't have those shoes. That was the kickoff. It was a problem for him. And he had feelings. He felt sad. And he was kind of mad. We talked about that too. So we talked about all these components of the story. And today we're going to pick up in a certain part of the story where there's this picture. And Jeremy is in bed at night thinking about Antonio. So I wanted to talk about our words that we have for thinking. And we know that Jeremy is spending a lot of time this night in particular thinking about what he's going to do. Jeremy has a problem. This time it's a new problem. He can't decide what to do about Antonio. So he is what? He's thinking about Antonio. And that's what we're going to put in our thought bubble. The problem he has is he can't decide what to do. He can't decide, which is a plan, whether to give the shoes to Antonio or not to give the shoes to Antonio. And I'm just going to put that up on the big critical thinking triangle map. Either he will give them or he won't give them. He has the problem where he can't decide, and we have to think about the feelings that he has when he can't decide. So, here he is. This is the kickoff for him. He can't make a decision. And look what we have. We took some of the text right out of the book, and I asked you to circle the word thinking. And this is just a sample of one of yours where Jerry circled the word thinking. And he also drew a little picture of Antonio with the thought bubble there thinking. So that's when we go into the text for evidence, and you remember evidence. You remember that well, just as you remembered giving the details for the character description. So here we have Antonio thinking about, Jeremy thinking about Antonio. And as he was doing that, he was kind of feeling sad. And I think I'm going to probably take this up here. He was feeling sad. He was feeling glum. We talked about glum. He was feeling discouraged. These are all synonyms for sad. He was feeling unhappy. He was really miserable. And another feeling that he had was confused, which is a little bit of sad and a little bit of angry. Now remember, you used your own critical thinking triangle and action mat, thinking mat, and you put your own feelings here, and we talked about them. And the next time, because you all want to come again, we're going to do some writing. Now I'm just going to talk about these thinking words that you have. All right, we call them thought words or thinking words. Right now we know he was thinking about Antonio. And I remember that, Frankie, you had the word remember. Jeremy remembered that Antonio didn't laugh at him. That was a memory. Jerry had know. What did he know for a fact? He knew that the shoes were too small. And Jerry said, because he has blisters. Isaiah was talking about what Jeremy understood. He understood that Antonio needed the shoes. And that was his what? Plan. His plan was to what? Give the shoes to Antonio. So I'm just going to circle that plan as we talked about it. Great. So in order to practice that, and actually Frankie wrote it out. Frankie wrote, the character remembered from the past that Antonio wasn't laughing at him. So these are sentence frames. And then we used our feeling words and we circled all the feeling words that we talked about in the story. And we figured there were more under sad than under happy and mad. There were no feeling words for scared or surprised, or disgusted. But there was a feeling word on the back called confused. And we talked about that as a couple of feelings, and we talked a lot about confused. It means unhappy and kind of mad at the same time. So we did a lot today. We talked about feelings, we talked about thinking, verbs and words, we talked about plans, we talked about Jeremy and his problem, we talked about the characters, we talked about the critical thinking triangle, and I had you talk about it all. When Jeremy had his problem and felt sad about it, he stopped, he thought, he made a plan, and he carried out the plan. So whenever there's a problem, in this case Jeremy had a problem, take time to do your thinking, because that will help you to make your plan. Great. Thank you, guys.
Right here, Maryellen is using the story grammar marker to retell the story of those shoes with the boys. Now she is using the feelings frame that's created with 5 popsicle sticks and some glue dots in order to have the boys demonstrate the feelings that the characters had in the story. Right here, Maryellen is handing out the new critical thinking triangle in action, student thinking mats, and the corresponding materials, and the boys were quite excited to be able to get these materials. Now, Maryellen is working with the critical thinking triangle in action, student thinking mat, with the boys as a group, and using the write-on wipe-off pens to write in the kickoffs, feelings, plans, thoughts, and cohesion words that are the 5 essential elements to the critical thinking triangle. It really kept the boys engaged, and they enjoyed using this with Maryellen and then using it themselves on the table in front of them.
And Jeremy's remembering something from the past about how those boys and girls too were what? Laughing, but who didn't laugh?
Antonio, teacher, let's say your question.
Antonio did not laugh. Now Jerry, yours is what he learned in the shoe store.
Yes.
Listen, here it is. Grandma tried on the shoes. He wanted them, but they were too
Small.
Could you put your glass? Thank you.
His kitty wanted it to come down.
And I wondered if you had noticed this in the last time.
Yes.
Look at his feet.
No, I did not notice that. How did that happen?
Blisters.
Oh, probably from those shoes.
From those shoes. Look at, he's got what on his feet?
Because they got blisters because our shoes were too small. Because
Wait,
one time my sister.
You know what happens? You get blisters.
You will get blisters. So what did he know because he tried on the shoes and he walked in them? What did he know? He knew
that they were too small. He tried to crunch his toe. He crunched his toes so they would fit, but that didn't work, and then he just ended up getting blisters.
Now Isaiah, what word do you have?
Understand.
Understand. And it's here that he learns to understand. Now, would you look up here, Frankie? He goes out and he watches. Here he is. He's watching Antonio and notices that he
Has tape on his shoe.
has tape on his shoe. They play basketball, and look what he's looked at. He notices what?
That is every time his feet hits the ground, it's like it sticks.
Yep, and they said smack. The shoe,
Yeah.
the tape smacks the ground, and what happens here? When they jump off the swing, he notices he is looking at what? What is Jeremy looking at here?
Please, can I just make an arrow looking at that?
It's almost like it. What is he saying? After they race from the playground, he notices what? Again?
The shoe.
The shoe
The
has tape.
shoe. So what does he understand now because he noticed all of that? He understands that
He needs those shoes.
he needs those shoes.
Yeah.
He understands, Isaiah, will you tell me what that was now? He understands that
He needs those shoes.
he, Antonio, needs those shoes. Okay, now, he's doing a lot of thinking in his bed, isn't he?
Yeah.
I have a word, realize. That means it's when you realize something, you know for sure. After all these things, what he remembered at the classroom, what he knew at the shoe store, and what he understood in the playground, he realized that he could help his what? That he could help his friend. Who could help who? Who could help his? Jeremy could help Antonio. Frankie, use that sentence to tell me.
Yeah.
Jeremy remembered from the past. What did he remember?
That Antonio was not laughing at him.
Was not laughing at him. Jeremy knew for a fact that the shoes
We're too small.
were too small. And
Like I wrote on this
Isaiah-
thing.
Yes, like you wrote on that. Jeremy understood that
give him the shoe.
he needed to give him the shoes. Wow, you guys, this is so great. So he made a plan to what? Give the shoes or not give the shoes?
Give the shoes.
Give the shoes. He gave the shoes to
Antonio.
Antonio. And how did he do that? He tried them on for the last time.
First
He tried them on, then
made a plan.
he made a plan to give them. He took them to Antonio's house. He left them off
And he ran away.
and he ran away. And then he saw Antonio at school. At school, Antonio is smiling in his big brand new shoes. I feel happy when I look at his face and mad when I look at my Mr. Elfrey shoes. So how does he feel now?
Look what I made.
Happy and sad.
Great, you wrote it. Antonio wasn't laughing at him. Excellent. Okay, put that down now. Let's do these two. At the end of everything,
Happy back.
he made a plan to give the shoes to Antonio, and he
Happy.
was happy because Jeremy was happy because
He gave him the shoes.
he gave him the shoes. And what did he see on Antonio's face?
Smart.
A smile. But he was
Mad.
when what?
He looked at Mr. Alfrey's
He
shoes.
looked at his shoes.
He looked at his shoes. All right. I'd like you to put your finger on the kickoff. And the kickoff, we're just going to review. The kickoff was that he had a problem. Jeremy had a problem. He couldn't decide what to do. And he had a lot of feelings about that problem. But what did he do?
Realized. Thought.
He thought, he realized.
He made a plan. And then he gave the shoes to Antonio and ran away.
All right, can you tell me if you think and if you understand and if you remember things, it helps you to make a what?
Plan.
Make a difference, make a plan. Well, you know what Jeremy is thinking about tonight in this picture? Should I give these shoes to Antonio or not? And what did he do?
Gave up to Antonio.
All right, I'm going to just ask you people, would you give the shoes to Antonio?
Yeah. Yes, I'll give him one right
Wait a
now.
second, wait a second. Oh, you guys. All right. Oh, there's the shoe, and there's the shoe. I think that's perfect for second graders.
Here, Antonio.
That's